Are you overwhelmed with professional development opportunities? You know, the webinars that you sign up for and you didn't watch, and the online course you joined and you haven't touched it, and the PDFs you downloaded but you never opened them. Oh, we've all been there. Until now. My name is Germain from Ultimate Music Theory, and my very special guest is the multi-talented Sara Campbell, teacher, entrepreneur, coach, techie, and entertaining performer, who's about to share her 3-part strategy that will help you aim your professional development successfully. Welcome, Sara.
Oh, Lori, thank you. That was the most fabulous introduction.
Well, you know, we've been friends for a while now, and not only are we friends, but you're also my coach, and I'm so grateful for coaching. And I did want to share the one key, which is our magic word for the day, the one key factor that I must share with our viewers. So Ultimate Music Theory teachers, fellow musicians, and fellow educators, is that you, Miss Sara, definitely have the secret sauce on how to implement strategies and take action on professional development opportunities. Because as they say, the proof is in the pudding. And Sara Campbell, biz coach, is a piano and voice entrepreneur. She loves to share her creative ideas, a savvy business practices, and cutting edge technology tips. And you will find her expertise on her Facebook Live broadcasts and in the Upbeat Piano Teachers, Tim Topham Creative Piano Teaching Inner Circle, which I'm proud to say I'm also the theory expert in the Tim Topham Inner Circle, which yay, and the Speakeasy Cooperative. Group for independent voice teachers. And we're going to share a bunch of links with you today, so stay tuned. So now you don't accomplish all that, plus do yoga, train your cat to do tricks, and have time to enjoy a glass of wine if you don't aim your professional development to watch the webinars, complete the online courses, read the PDFs, and implement strategies. So Miss Sara Campbell, well, actually it's kind of Mrs., but please release the secret sauce.
All right, cool. Yeah, I've got some great stuff for you guys today. And I think that this topic is a really popular one because there's so many opportunities out there, and we get wrapped up in like signing up for all these things, but then we kind of get stuck because we don't know what step to take first. And we have all these webinars that have piled up like in our email inbox, or, you know, you have them saved on your computer and you're kind of nervous about like, well, what do I do next?
Exactly.
Right. And then what can happen is that oftentimes we do nothing.
Yeah.
And this is something that I want our viewers to know you're not alone in. You know, this is not something that I have 100% perfected, but I am working on it.
Yes.
So if you all are joining us, I would love for you to comment below and let us know what you think about all of those webinars that you have like tucked away somewhere, or like if you signed up for some courses or, you know, materials from conferences that you went to that are like languishing in your closet. If you have experienced this, I want you to let me know that I'm not alone.
I think I should be entering the chat box. It's funny you said that, Sara, because I know when I go to a conference, you come back with so many great ideas and you just stuff them all in your bag, and then it goes on the shelf. And then the biggest challenge is, how do we implement those? And we need that, you know, we need some kind of help in like, okay, now what are we going to do to take action? So I'm super excited to hear your tips, because I know for myself, I remember taking an online course, which was a full weekend of my life. And after I took the course, I think it was like, 100 years ago, on how to write a best-selling ebook in a weekend and make millions, one of those. And, I spent a weekend of my life taking that, and then I didn't implement it because I didn't have the AIM strategies that you're going to share with us. We've learned a lot since that, but you're right. Like, what are we going to do?
Oh, I love that you've brought that up, especially the week-long things that you've attended and you haven't gotten to like implement any of those things. Right. I have a notebook that goes with me to, conferences, or if I'm doing stuff online, and I take lots of notes in here. Yes. I've got a lot of things in this notebook that haven't been implemented yet. So I am going to be using my A.I.M strategy myself too. Yes. I see that Kathy O'Donnell just tuned in, and she said, I need help in to organize all my courses, from the link to the login, remembering like which part of the course you're in. Oh, right. Yeah. Great point. And Angie says, you're not alone. So many great pieces of information, so little time to process and implement. Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Lisa also tunes in and says, I have this issue. I've recently organized all my papers in my studio and finally filed all my conference notes by topic. I hope it helps me finally reference them. Lisa, I have a job for you. Do you want to come to my studio?
Me too.
Signing up. Okay.
You know, it's funny that even organizing, and I was organizing my office the other day, and me too, you know, found all those pages of things and thought, okay, you need to organize stuff so that you can find it. Yeah. But then you now organized it, but how are we going to actually implement everything that we've learned?
Oh, exactly. So, okay, let's get to it, right? I've got like three steps for you guys. And I've used the word A.I.M because we love our little, what is it? Like we were talking about never ending professional development, right? NEPD. Yep. So now I'm using A.I.M and I've got 3 words for you guys, and I'm going to walk you through them. And, you know, if you've got a piece of paper, take some notes. They'll be really easy, I promise. Okay. So my first letter is A, and I'm actually kind of tapping into some of my own strengths with this A.I.M, right? Okay, so the first one is activate, because I am an activator. I am the type of person that likes to make things happen. So I like to take ideas and turn them into actions.
I like it.
Right? And I think that's where we can kind of get stuck often, right? We can't get that moving. So when it comes to, and these 3 letters that I'm sharing, like these 3 steps kind of all happen at once. So it's good to sit down and kind of look through all of these things at the same time. And this is hopefully going to give you what you need to take that first step to implement these things. Okay, so what does it mean to activate when it comes to these professional courses that you've signed up for and whatnot? So my first thing that I do if I have stuff that hasn't been used and it's just sitting around in a closet or sitting around on my computer is to activate that product or course. So maybe that means printing out a PDF that's on step 1, right?
Yes.
Print that PDF out, put it somewhere where you can see it to hold yourself accountable. Ooh, another good A word, right?
Accountable. Yes.
So we're activating by printing off those materials, getting them ready to go. Maybe your activation step is to make a list of all of these things that you haven't done yet, you know, things that you purchased over the last year and you haven't even touched, and they're just collecting dust somewhere.
And I think you're right, Sarah, because when you activate and print things off, I know for myself, when I'm doing a course, I'm signed up for another course that I'm taking now, but the first thing I did was I printed it off, I hole punched it, I put it in a binder and put it on my desk. So that sort of prepares you for the next step, right? Because now I'm okay. Well, what's your excuse now? Like you've got your stuff printed,
right?
Right. Let's go, girl.
Exactly. I signed up for an Amy Porterfield course earlier this year. Yes. I love her too. Her energy is just fabulous. And my first step, because I knew I invested into this great course, was to activate and get all the materials. I downloaded everything from that course. I didn't watch any of the videos before. I downloaded all the things, sent them to Office, where would I have? Staples. I organized them in the order I wanted printed, and I printed them in a really fancy binder. Perfect. So that was my activate, you know, get this ready to go and let's do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so many people tuning in. Hi, Sylvia and Karen. Yay. Good to see you guys. So let us know, what are you going to activate?
Yes.
Right? Make a list of the things you want to activate right now. I want to see what you're activating. That would be cool.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we've got activate, and then we move on to I, and that is implement, right? Now these things are kind of closely related, but the activation is, you know, making the decision that you're going to turn these things into an action, right? These ideas that you have, making that decision, taking that first step at printing things out, or maybe, downloading whatever you need. And then you need to implement this. So it means that you've got to carve out time.
Yes.
Because if you don't make that decision to carve out time in your schedule, it's never going to get done. So
absolutely.
I know it's hard, Glory, isn't it? I mean, we're busy people.
Yes. And I think too that, when it's an interesting thing, Sara, because as music teachers, and I mean, you just came off a massive performance show, they gave you the rehearsal schedule, they gave you, the performance schedule, you had to go for costume fittings, like you had a schedule and you did it because you were committed to that. There was someone taking care of the producer or stage director. And so you were committed to the project. And I think sometimes when we ourselves, just like when you signed up for the course, and I've signed up for courses that I'm working on right now and memberships, and all of a sudden, because there's no structure, no one hands you a list and says, oh, is this on your calendar? And so I think to implement, we really need to put it on the calendar, just as if you were going to do a show. You wouldn't just not show up because you didn't have time. You go because of integrity. You said you were going to be there and you show up. And I think oftentimes for our own personal development, we almost, get swept under the rug.
Yes.
I don't have time right now. That's what I hear a lot of us. I don't have time, but actually you do, because we're all busy. And yet there's been look at the accomplishments that you've done. You somehow found the time and you taught your cat some new tricks. I saw him watching TV the other day.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. That was so funny. Apparently my cat really likes cartoons. So, I love that you brought up the schedule for the show, right? Because I think that keeps us accountable, and having that schedule, that carved out, there are people there, the directors and your other cast members that are relying on you to be there. So if you need to imagine who's your director, who are your cast members, if you need some people to hold you accountable, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Think about the people in your studio. Mm-hmm. The reason that you're doing these professional developments is because you want to be able to bring awesome stuff to your clients.
Absolutely.
And so think about those clients, they're basically your cast, right? And you might be playing many different roles. You might be in the cast, you might be a director, you might be a producer, you're probably costuming, all that.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So carve out time in your schedule, get really deliberate about implementing what you're doing. So for me, when I first started that course that I mentioned, I started carving out a little bit of time every morning and committing, okay, at this point I have half an hour and I'm going to work through this part of the course. I'm going to actually get into my workbook and I'm going to write stuff down. I'm going to watch the videos that need to be watched. And when you're looking at those little half hours in your day, a half hour, actually you can get a lot done.
You can. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, Sara, because I think sometimes when we sign up for a course, we think, oh, I don't have time, because we're thinking it's going to take, hours and hours and hours. But in fact, if you carve out a 30-minute lesson, which would be you yourself, and then carve out a 30-minute implement what you learned, because I know I've taken a lot of courses like you have, and it's great to study it and then you close your book, and if you don't implement it, I know for myself, I take a lot of courses, I love to learn and then I want to implement what I learned, and don't teach me anything else until I implement that. And and even if you say, well, that's going to be my professional development, I'm going to take an hour a week or something, but at least it's a start.
Exactly. It's a start. And you know what? It's all about building habits and getting into the habit of doing these things. So, if 30 minutes seems too daunting, set aside 15 minutes. And after a few days, you're totally going to understand how valuable that is. Absolutely. And, 15 minutes will turn into 20, 20 will turn into 30. It's just getting a good habit, like exercising.
Oh, was that?
We're exercising our brains, right?
Actually, you mentioned Amy Porterfield, and I was watching one of her webinars too. And because of her, I've actually implemented a little more of a healthy regime, because she's all about, taking time out for professional development, but also personal development. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll have vegetables instead of fries, but not always.
Chris, not always. Yeah, you got to have a little fun, right?
Yeah.
Christopher has a fantastic comment. He said, "We make time for what matters."
Absolutely. Good, Christopher. Thank you. Actually, Christopher is one of our Ultimate Music Theory certified teachers. I don't believe he's completed the certification course yet, but he is really keen on professional development. So I want to give a shout out to him and say, yay, great idea.
That's a fantastic. I see Barbara Leverson is here. Hi, Barbara. I hope you have your latte. She would always comment about her lattes. I love it. She says, we learn a lot of stuff at conferences, but realistically, I'm not going to do it all. Pick the best one thing and make manageable goals. That is fantastic stuff.
Absolutely.
So let's kind of recap for a second. Our first step is to activate, right? We are printing out our materials. We're getting organized. We're choosing what we want to do, and we're getting ready to turn things into actions.
Right.
And then we're going to start implementing. But to implement, you've got to carve out time in your schedule, and you've got to hold yourself responsible or accountable for this, right?
Right.
Okay, so now let's get to the last letter. That's motivate. Okay, so we've got AIM, right? A.I.M, which is the old chat program for AOL, which was my favorite chat program that they shut down in December, and I'm still mourning that. So if anybody else here is mourning the loss of AIM, it's a generational thing, I realize, but yeah. So your last step is to motivate. And I think this is really, really important. You've got to think about why you're doing this. And you've got to think about what results am I going to get if I activate and implement this. Sit down and write out, these are the results that I can expect when I put in the work. It's kind of what we think about with our students, right?
Absolutely.
This is why we teach them to practice and why we teach them effective practicing techniques, because we're looking at the results, right? The process is going to get us there. And then we have these results at the end. And sometimes we need to sit down and really hash out what are those results going to be, so we know that they're valuable.
Right. Absolutely. And, I'm kind of quoting the words of Jim Rohn, who is a philosopher and amazing, mentor. If you watch any of his inspirational videos, and he said, it's not really what you do, but it's what you become. And I think through professional development, you can become the best version of yourself. And sometimes we wish it, but I think using the AIM technique, as you've mapped out so brilliantly for us, you can really achieve that. And you can become, the type of teacher and friend and mentor and educator that you really want to be. So it's important to just go, well, how can we get started? Like Sarah's given us the steps. Now there's no excuses.
That's right.
There's nothing left. It's like, you're doing this.
Yes, you're absolutely doing this. And you know what? Later on, I didn't actually set this up, but I would love to send out a broadcast to you guys that has these steps written out. So, if you're interested in getting a hold of that, I would love for you to drop the word key in our chat box here. That would be really cool. So the word key, like a KEY. And I'll set this up later out so that you can get these steps like written out for you. So if you haven't been taking notes and you're wondering like, oh, what did she say about doing this? Like, we'll make sure that we get that to you. Plus we're going to send you something else.
Yeah.
Lori's going to tell you about that. So
Well, thank you, Sarah. That's perfect. Speaking of your AIM, I do want to say, congratulations, because I know that we talk a lot about professional development for teachers. And one of the things that I was passionate about was creating the Ultimate Music Theory certification course for teachers, because I struggled immensely in teaching theory. I know people are going, really, because I didn't know anything. And through my, research and professional development, I finally created a program that I thought would be of great benefit to teachers. And I know that you are taking the Ultimate Music Theory certification course. And I was just wondering if you could share maybe what are some of your takeaways that you've discovered in completing the course.
Yes. Okay. So I'll let you guys kind of know where I am in the course. Like I completed my rudiments exam, which, wow, like, oh, that was so awesome. Yeah. It took a lot of work, but so my rudiments exam is done. I have some corrections that I need to make because I need to work on my rests.
Well, Sheila McKibben-Uren, who is the examiner for the UMT course, and I know she's very fussy.
And I love that. I love that she's making me really think things through and be very, very exact with my wording, very exact with my notation. And this is, that was one of my biggest takeaways in completing the rudiments part of the course, is that there are little tiny things that I could improve on with my notation. And now I have like really specific wording that I can use with my students that will help me, tell them how to do this, being very exact with things, because, it's hard to draw rests and it's hard to, it's hard to make sure that everything's really exact. And I love that that was one of my big takeaways. And then I think my second takeaway, this is my favorite part, and you've kind of worked this into all of the different levels, is talking about how people learn.
Right.
Yeah. And it's so fascinating. And now with every student, when I'm sitting there at the bench with them, sitting at the same time, because, when you're meeting them at their level and you're imitating their body language, right?
Yes, exactly.
Things I'm learning from your course. I'm watching them and I'm asking questions. Say, like I asked my student Maddox yesterday, I said, which helped you most? Did you like listening to this rhythm, or did it feel better when you played it yourself? And he thought about it for a second. He said, I really liked listening to it.
Right.
So, getting into, is he kinesthetic? Is he more oral? Like, it's so fascinating. And that's one of my biggest takeaways.
Yeah, I think that is it. And it's interesting because we often think that we just teach, but are not, we think about their personality, but not exactly their learning style. And it can be really, really powerful when we can discover that and go, oh, I see. And just because you teach voice doesn't mean that they are, an auditory learner, which
Isn't that fascinating? Yeah.
So there's lots more. So tell us what you're implementing into your studio.
So I'm implementing right now. I'm implementing, like I said, looking at how do my students learn, and really kind of starting to think about, how can I connect with them on different levels?
Right.
And I'm also trying to, meet, because we're not just a single, type of learner. Like we have aspects, like maybe you're like 60% this one, 20% this one. So like trying to, if this doesn't work, then okay, let's switch gears and see if a different mode of learning is going to help you more. So like that's what I'm really trying to hone in on right now.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is that young children have a strong sense of one learning style, visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. And as we get a little bit older, that's when we kind of tend to maybe take on another one as well. So you can definitely have more than one learning style, but it kind of evolves. So young children are usually really strong, like as young people. And then as we mature, we experience different ways of learning, and then we kind of put them together. And I know as you're moving, because you've completed the basic rudiments teacher's exam, and now you're going on to intermediate. And in that module, you're going to learn about, yay, Sarah, you're going to learn about submodalities. And submodalities are very interesting as well, because we have towards goal setting and we have away from goal setting. And you need to understand what kind of goal setter is your student, which is an interesting thing. So, if we were, going to be running a marathon, and someone was a towards goal setter, they would say, well, I want to be fit. I want to be healthy. I want this. They're a towards goal setter. And if you're an away from goal setter, then your thoughts might be, I don't want to be fat. I don't want to wear stretchy pants my whole life. I don't want this. I don't want that. But you still have a common goal. So it's interesting when we're teaching that sometimes we'll say, you can do it. And other times you'll say, I bet you can't do that. I bet you can't sing that from memory without looking at the words. So what's the trigger, right?
Oh, how cool. I can't wait to dive into that part. I have started activating that. I've I have like downloaded a bunch of the PDFs from the intermediate course, and now I need to like implement. I'm on step 2. But I will get there.
Well, we've been talking about the certification course, and I really want to invite teachers to get registered for our fantastic webinar that's coming up May the 8th and the 9th. And I think that the link will be in here. Just go ahead and enter, masterclass or something in the little chat box, and we'll make sure to get you that link, because I don't want you to miss it. It's a really powerful webinar. You're going to learn all kinds of things there. So it's going to be fantastic. I do have a question. So as a teacher, Miss Sara, what would be, I call you Miss Sara because my students call me Miss Glory.
That's what my students call me. Yeah, that is how,
and I'll tell you why they don't call me Mrs. Saint Germain, because I taught a lot of young children and they couldn't say Saint Germain. So they used to call me Mrs. Samer James. And so
that's funny.
And one of them thought my name was Mrs. Trebleclef, but that's another story. But at any rate, Miss Sara, so what's maybe the one tip that you can share on how can we move forward, with our studio business plan, like to achieve our goals? Like, what is the one thing that we could maybe do to go, okay, this is what you're going to do. You've got a goal. What are we going to do to get started?
Absolutely. So, it kind of comes back into, it's going to tie back into like using that A.I.M process, but this also ties into another video that I did a couple weeks ago, and measuring out like, what is the impact of, this particular idea that I have for my studio? What's the impact going to be? What are the results that I'm going to have, and how much effort is it going to take for me to get there? So I like to really think about impact and effort. And if, you see an area of your studio that's struggling, maybe it's part of business, maybe it's part of teaching, you really need to examine that and think about, well, what can I do to make this better? Because it's never going to change until you make that decision to change it. Since, you are the sole proprietor, as most of us are. And, so you are the driving force behind your business, and you have to make the decision that you want to change that aspect. And then once you like think about the impact effort, and by the way, if anybody's interested in like the whole impact effort video, let me know. And then, I'll make sure that I drop a link about that in the comments here after we're done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you have to think about aiming, for those things. So it's all about, one step at a time. And that would be my best advice for those business owners out there.
Absolutely. One of the things you talked about was, organizing and time. We've covered so much today. And I think one of the things that really is key factor for you and I as well in our own professional development is that it's time versus revenue, right? So you are a professional business owner. What is the amount of time that you're going to commit to, growing your business for financial results? Yes. And one of the things that I'll be talking about in the webinar is, how can you double and even triple your income and actually teach less hours? I mean, certainly I do it all the time. I've been doing it for years. And I think that this is something that I wanted to share because how do we get that information? Well, first we have to learn it. So you can do it two ways. You can either take 10 years and go research and develop everything and figure it out on your own. Yeah. Or you can implement using your A.I.M strategies, get registered for, the course that you want that's going to move you forward for your goals, and take action, implement, and, motivate yourself and get those measurable results, because that's what it's all about, is having fun, number one, and learning, and then implementing so that we can serve the students rather that we teach. That's really what it's all about. And
awesome.
speaking of serving, I do want to acknowledge you as really an amazing coach, because not everyone can be a coach. It number one, you have to learn how to be a coach, but also you have to have that true passion for sharing. And I want to ask you, how did you get started with your coaching program with Sara Campbell, Biz Coach?
Oh yeah. So this has been something that's developed over the years. I started as a blogger years ago. I think my blog started officially in 2014. I had been teaching for a long time, and I needed a way to get my ideas out there. I felt like I had so many ideas I wanted to share. And, it wasn't that long ago that teachers, we really didn't have the Facebook forums yet. We didn't have all these ways to connect online. These are all very recent additions to what we can do as professionals. So I started blogging about it, and I started blogging initially just creative things in my studio. I loved to share creative ideas. Then I started talking about business a little bit. And wouldn't you know, once I started, sharing these business ideas, I had all these teachers emailing me and Facebooking me and asking me questions that were very specific to their businesses. Right. And so I would, come back with email comments and stuff like that. And eventually I made the decision, you know what, this is not enough. I need to find a way to help people more. And so that's when I started, looking into coaching for myself, and I started developing my own coaching style. And so then I started working with teachers one-on-one and also in groups. And it's been fabulous, because this is my favorite passion in life.
Yeah. And you do such a great job. And I think when you're passionate about what you do, it's infectious. And I think that it's really important to share. I love the word share. Sometimes we think, oh, I don't want to tell anybody what I do. I'm so successful, but it's really not the way to grow. No. The way to grow is to if you have a great idea, share it, and I feel too, even when I'm talking to other teachers, sometimes they'll have a great idea and I'll say, oh, can I borrow, steal, slash that great idea? Because I want to share it with other people too. You know?
And that's part of what I do. I love that you said that. I encourage teachers who, not just in their studios. Yeah, we're sharing all kinds of things with our clients. That is something that I work on really, really hard. How do you share your awesome in your studio? How do you attract the people to you that you want as clients? And I work with, so I work with studio owners, but I also work with what we might call next level teachers who are offering, online courses, or, they're creating something new, like an app or all kinds of cool things. They have a video series that they want to work on. Glory. So that's, it's awesome. So you've got to shout it out loud. If you've got something cool, you got to share it. Absolutely. It's like Christopher said, don't bury the talent God's given you. He just popped that into the comments. I see some really cool comments about making goals, and you guys are awesome. We've got some great comments here today.
Yeah, that's fantastic. My little comment thing is over here, so I'm like, oh wow,
good stuff.
Lots of comments.
And just, if you haven't already gotten a hold of the links to the masterclass, Glory, they just popped them into the comments here. And if you guys want reminders about them, make sure that you drop the word key down below, and we'll get those to you. So we've got some really cool stuff that'll be delivered to you by Sola, the chatbot. She's got goods. Yay! Oh yes. Oh, do you have Sola with you? Yay!
Here.
There we go. She's
Sola. You actually notice that Sola and Tito actually have their own little personalities. So when you grab your Sola and Tito stuffies, then you'll actually see their teaching aids. So, and they're also our chat box. So one of the things that we're doing in the masterclass webinar that's coming up is, and it's called the 3 master keys that you need to teach music theory more effectively, attract more students excited to learn, because you're going to be learning all about that, and increase your teaching income, but not your teaching time. And so that's what we're going to cover in the masterclass. It's going to be awesome. And I'll be sharing some of my 3 best mnemonic devices, but it's a secret, so can't talk about that now.
All right. Nice. You have to sign up in order to get that. So if you want to get that, drop key below and we'll get it to you.
Drop me below. Absolutely. We're also going to talk a little bit about NLP, what it is and how it changes everything. And I'm really excited to share. We're going to also explore learning styles, and we'll talk a little bit about VAC. And we're also going to discover the prime environment for learning. And here's a little hint. There's actually 5 of them. So I'll be sharing them as well.
Very
so
cool.
I'm excited. You know, I love learning. I love learning and sharing ideas with Sara. She's an amazing coach. And I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And Sola.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, it's been great. So we've got the aim. We've got it figured out. We're going to take action. We're going to recap those ideas. Make sure you enter the word key.
Yes.
And we're going to be sharing fantastic things, and also get registered for the masterclass. If you are watching the replay, these are, I think we have 6 times. I've made sure that it's available at a good time for all of our Australia and UK people. So you don't have to get up at 2:00 in the morning to, that is fun sometimes. So anyway, want to say thank you so much. Anything to close up with, Sara?
No, thank you so much for watching, guys. This has been fantastic. If you have questions about anything that we covered today, make sure that you let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this and you have friends out there who would think that this is valuable, make sure that they can get a hold of this. You know, share the love, and make sure that they get, you know, invited to this little party, because this was really fun today. Thank you, Glory. This was amazing.
Thank you, Sara. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Teach with passion. Bye.